just want to think some more about this distinction I tried to make in a previous video about what I referred to as explicit and implicit beliefs, in which our explicit beliefs are those that we can express in words that we own up to, that we can find ways of expressing, and which we hold to be true. I'm not suggesting we're lying about those things, but these things that we can say, that beliefs that we have overtly, and contrasting that with what I refer to as implicit beliefs, which are ones that we may not either want to or be able to own up to or be able to put into words, but nevertheless our actions, our responses demonstrate that we do hold those beliefs. And I gave the example of being frightened in a spooky churchyard at night, even though we have no explicit beliefs in ghosts and demons and those kind of things. But I want to make sure, for my own purposes, that I'm not talking about hypocrisy, and I'm not talking about lying. Because I watched a Dan Dennett video yesterday after when someone left a comment referring to it on the comment section of my previous video, and it was a video of a talk that Dennett made at the Atheist Alliance conference in 2007, where he's talking about belief in belief, and he's talking about it in a religious context, and why some people who claim to be believers in a particular religious faith, why they say they're believers. And he was basically saying that that many people say they believe something, i.e. declare their belief, and he used the word declare. They're declarative about their belief, and so in a sense fulfill the criteria for what I would call explicit beliefs. But according to him, don't really hold those beliefs, don't really, and I thought that was a really significant thing, because you seem to be suggesting that because they declare those beliefs, it's kind of false, it's kind of a lie, and I'm not sure if I would go along with that. He also gives reasons about why a person might declare a particular belief that they don't hold in what I would call an implicit way. And he gave things like fear. You're frightened of either social consequences or some kind of metaphysical consequences that you just genuinely don't understand, or you might be frightened of loss of earnings, or all kinds of venal reasons why you might declare a belief that you don't actually hold. But I would want to erase that distinction between a declarative belief like the ones that I've just mentioned, saying that you hold a belief, and this idea that beliefs that you can hold implicitly are more actual or more real. I'm not sure if that's a distinction I would want to go along with right now, because if I am frightened in a graveyard, it's a real belief at least in I think in the sense that Dennett would agree with. I genuinely do hold that belief clearly, because here I am in a churchyard sweating with my fingers crossed. But I don't know, how can that be more real than my declared belief that these things the ghosts and demons and vampires and so on are figments of our imagination? That's more real, I would say. So I just don't think that the things you say could be lies, whereas the things you feel are real distinction really holds. And I think identifying, again, when Dennett talks about it, he talks about declaring a belief, whereas I would prefer to think of that as a declarative belief. It's a type of belief that's operating there in the declarative form, in the explicit form, rather than simply the utterance of a falsehood. But I think those things, the two types of belief that I'm talking about, explicit and implicit, are a bit different. And I think it's in those differences that a more interesting conversation happens, really, rather than just simply saying that one is false and one is true. I mean, certainly, I think at least, expressed beliefs, the explicit kinds of beliefs, the beliefs we do declare, have a lot of overlap, it seems to me, with things like hope, or desire, maybe ambition, maybe a pursuit of a particular ideological or philosophical or metaphysical goal. So if I say, I believe in equality, and I know I'm playing fast and loose with the words here a little bit. If I say I believe in equality, I'm not just saying equality exists. I'm not making a truth claim about the status of the world, although maybe that's clearly part of it, because I do recognise equality to a certain extent. I'm also making a statement about a commitment to an ambition, to a project, to the pursuit of equality, to that equality is a good thing. So there's a bit of hope in there, a bit of desire for political, social, ideological change in that direction. Or if I say I believe in the idea of no, I'm searching for a good example. I've nearly got there, but I haven't quite got it. But so the explicit belief also has, to me, is tinged by that sense of desire, purpose, an ideal, that kind of thing. Believing in one's ideal self. In fact, I sometimes think the belief in Jesus is a bit like that. Sorry to bring Jesus into this, but I sometimes think that when people believe in God and believe in Jesus, it's a kind of belief in an ideal self, in a project that would eventually lead to God. An idea that somewhere we would aspire to that. We collectively, anyway, that's kind of a side issue. Whereas the other kind of belief, the implicit belief, is a much more, to me at least, is much more coloured by instinct and the kind of incorrigibility, the undeniability of the body. So it's not aspirational, it's not desirous, it's not full of kind of hope. It isn't ideological in that sense. It isn't there's no kind of social activist agenda to implicit belief. It's more atavistic in many ways. It's more kind of grounded in the present and the past. It's more historically grounded. So if I was to put those explicit and implicit beliefs on a timeline, I would probably think about implicit belief as being historical in the past and grounded in the body, where I would think of the explicit beliefs, those ones that are expressed, as being hopes for great happenings in the future, as well as perhaps existing partially in the present. It's explicit beliefs are more kind of forward-facing in that sense to me. This is how I'm visualising it. Whereas implicit beliefs are much more to do with something at your back, or propping that belief up and forcing that belief to act itself out in the body. Yeah, so I just think they're different. I don't think that one is, even when they're in flat out contradiction, even when I say one belief and act in accordance or with another, even when they're as distinctive as that, I still don't think that's necessarily a call for hypocrisy, or a claim that I'm walking the walk and not talking the talk but not walking the walk. Because whilst that might be true, I think these are just kind of different things, really. These are different aspects, one of which is backward facing, one of which is forward facing, one of which is of the body, one of which is of the, I hate to say it, but of the spirit or of the mind or of the future, one of which is visceral, one of which is aspirational, one of which is kind of reflexive and instinctive, the other of which is much more cognitive and perhaps pro-social. Anyway, that'll do. Thank you.